Elaine, welcome to the show. Please tell me, what is it like in Minnesota right now?
It's the middle of June, and we are still, let's call it in a prolonged spring,
Hmm.
weather-wise, but getting that excitement with the kids getting out of school and, the schedule's loosening up a little bit for the summer.
So, the prolonged kind of not summer happening, but still enjoying it, I'm sure, because I believe that you are doing what you want to do and what not something that you have to do. And I want to talk more about that. So, you reached financial freedom in your 30s after training at Mayo Clinic and practicing psychiatry, right?
hmm
What sparked your pivot from medicine to real estate?
Yeah, such a good question. It all kind of unfolded organically, and I'll tell you kind of the quick version, and then we can, dive into different parts as we go on with our time here together. Um, Both my husband and I came from families with really considerable financial stress. My husband's mother had had a traumatic brain injury, so she was never really fully employed throughout his childhood. His father was never around. My father was addicted to opioids and all of the struggle that came with that. So when my husband and I met each other, we knew we wanted something very different for our financial lives, but we didn't really know what. And so we went to people who were a generation ahead of us, be like our friends' parents, people we worked with, and we would ask them all sorts of questions like, how do you have a good marriage? How do you raise your children? What brings meaning in life? And one of those questions was, and how do you have financial stability? And time again, we heard real estate. And so we decided very early on in our marriage that we wanted to do some real estate investing. I owned my own home. He owned his own home. We moved into his home, kept my home as a rental, bought our first purposeful rental a couple of years later, and then just kept growing and growing and growing the portfolio. I'm sure we'll talk about that. And then really throughout that time, I went to medical school, residency. My husband had a full career in technology that he really enjoyed. And then what really changed things from medicine to real estate was the pandemic. I think in a lot of ways, if it wasn't for COVID, I would probably still be practicing medicine. I always had this vision that my husband and I would have an office building and he would run the real estate portfolio like on the side, and I would have my psychiatry practice on one side. And so we would sort of work like in the same building, but we would have our own things. And as it turns out, we're in the same building doing the same thing. And during COVID, we had 3 children at that time. We have 5 now. And it just seemed like every day the kids were getting kicked out of school because of COVID exposures and other things. And so I said, you know what? We have a portfolio that provides us, meets our basic needs. Why don't I step back from medicine, let the vaccine come out, let schools stabilize, things settle down, and then I'll go back to medicine, in a year or so when things have stabilized. And during that year, we really grew the portfolio. We really doubled down on working with passive investors. And so by the time that year was up, it was just like a foregone conclusion that, of course, I would continue growing the company. I think that medical training is this really uniquely valuable skill set that can be applied to so many things. But I have seen, as I'm sure many people who are listening, who are in any, high pressure, right, highly educated profession, there's certainly a level of fixed mindset, a level of like hierarchy. And if you're more junior, you can't speak up, and a burnout culture and a hustle culture and those sorts of things. I remember late in my residency, thinking about my employment after residency, and you had to come in as like it was called a special associate, and then work your way up. And I just remember having this feeling of like, when does this stop? Like, have I not proven myself already? Like, I did undergrad, I did graduate school, I did medical school, I did residency. Like, when can I just like be? And in medicine, you're just kind of always having to sort of prove yourself and kind of climb. So there is that mindset that's very different in the entrepreneurial world. One thing that I absolutely love about medicine is that I think that medical training is a phenomenal way to think. A physician takes a look at some medical records, maybe reviews things like pretty quickly, starts to get some ideas in their mind about, what's going on with that patient, what extra data they want to collect, either through interviewing them, talking to family, getting labs, imaging. Then they create a list of the differential diagnoses of what all the different things that this could be. Then they figure out, okay, I believe it's most likely to be this one. Come up with a plan, rally a team around that plan. The nurses and the paraprofessionals and the pharmacists, all of those things, rallying that team together, bringing those resources to bear, and then iterating on that over and over and over. Could be every few hours in an ICU setting, could be, every year or so, meeting with patients in, say, a outpatient internal medicine or family medicine practice. But that skill set of collecting data, analyzing it very quickly, collecting additional data, putting that together, coming up with a plan, coming up with a diagnosis and then a plan, and then rallying a team, that is basically entrepreneurship. That is basically real estate investing. You just do it around different problems. But it was such a natural transition for me to go from medicine to running a company and running the real estate portfolio, because I basically just carry out that same cognitive loop. I'm just solving different problems. I think what I've seen over the last several years is people have realized that real estate is a job. There's no, if you own real estate, even if you have a property manager, you are still involved. You are still calling the shots for bigger maintenance expenses, capital expenditures. If there's an insurance claim, there's still some level of liability, right? You're having to secure the debt, all of those sorts of things. People really got into short-term rentals because of the tax advantages from that. And I think now they're figuring out that they're kind of like Tamagotchis, like they constantly need your attention. And those of us that grew up in the 90s, right, a Tamagotchi was fun for a little while. And then after a while, you're like, I just want to put this thing down. But it's hard if you own a short-term rental to pass that off to a property manager. And then a lot of people are finding that if they sell, right, they have that depreciation recapture. So I think what I have seen, and I think I predicted it because I've been in real estate for so long, I knew it was a job, is what I would sort of encourage people is, do you want to do real estate because of the thrill of the chase, the love of the game? You're an entrepreneur at heart. You want something to take care of. You want something to get your hands dirty. If so, go do active real estate and enjoy it. If you want to do real estate for the financial and the tax benefits, have someone else do that work, because chances are what you want when you have this additional income is to be able to maybe cut back at work, buy back some of your time, buy back some of your freedom, and not supplement that with a part-time job, which is what real estate investing is. And I think I've seen that sort of shift over the last couple of years, that people who have done active real estate are kind of like, okay, I came, I saw, I conquered, I don't want to do this anymore. This is a lot more work than I anticipated. When I do free up my time, say cutting back at work or whatever, I want to spend it with my kids, on my hobbies, taking care of my health, not taking care of a rental property. And those people that have always done passive investing, I think they sort of know they've made the right choice, because they've been able to benefit financially from real estate investing without having to do all the tinkering. I love real estate. I love for the love of the game, but I'm also doing it full time, right? Very different than trying to squeeze it in, around a clinical schedule. What separates humans from all other animals is that we can think about the future. Yes, we have instinct. Yes, we have imprinted behavior, but we have so much more than that. We can use our brains, we can use our frontal lobes, we can use our visual systems to think about and see the future before it has happened. We can do that for 5 minutes from now, right? Think about what we're going to do next, right? Even when we think about, oh, I'd like to stand up and go get a glass of water, we see that unfolding in our head before we actually stand up. We can think about it for years from now. And there's something in our nervous system that doesn't quite understand the difference between reality and what's in our imagination. Athletes have been using this for decades, where they will visualize themselves, winning the gold medal or shooting the free throw, or, whatever it is for their particular sport. And they'll spend a portion of their time doing the actual physical sport. And then they'll spend a portion of their time working with a visualization coach, seeing themselves going through the motions of their sport. Yeah. So the time period that I have found to be a real sweet spot for people is to see what you really want in your life in about a 3-year time frame. Longer than that, and it starts to become very abstract. Like, well, what's going to be happening? Where am I going to be living? What's the technology going to be? It just becomes like a little abstract for people. Shorter than that, and our mind will start to say, well, that's not possible. I can't get that done in a year. That 3-4 year time frame is short enough that it feels very tangible, very knowable. But it's long enough that our mind is a little softer to say, I don't know, maybe I could make that happen, right? 3 years is a long time. And really seeing oneself. There's no like magic formula to visualization. You just create the time frame. Like, so if you say, I want to see myself in June of 2028, and really try to create the visual image of it. Some people see a movie, some people see like a picture, some people see like just like quick like snapshots or images. Some people don't see anything. They just feel a feeling, and that is okay too. I've learned that from guiding enough people through visualization, is they'll say like, I'm not seeing anything, Elaine, like, am I messing up? No, you're still creating it somewhere in your nervous system, even if you're not creating it in your visual cortex. But really see, like, what do you feel like when you wake up in the morning? How are you spending your day? How are you working? How are you earning income? Who's in your life? What do those relationships feel like? What are you doing in your free time? What's your health look like? Just kind of go through all of the different domains and really see it. See yourself embodied in that. See yourself, showing up to whatever work it is that you want to do, being in relationship with the people that you want to be in relationship with. Maybe there's a spouse in the future or a child in the future, you name it. Like, really see that, really create it. And then this magical thing happens that people who have done it believe it. And they're like, yep, it happens every single time. I know it. This is why I spend so much time visualizing. People who haven't yet experienced it are a little more skeptical. But I'm going to offer it to you and hope that people receive it, is that once you do that, what people find time and time again is the thing that they thought was maybe 3-4 years out can happen in 6 or 12 months. Someone had to dream of the idea of a cell phone. Someone had to dream of the idea of a Zoom call. Someone, on and on and on. So everything we have, everything that you can see and touch and feel in your lived reality was first an idea in someone's head. And the same is true for your own reality. So think about what you want in the future. What do you want in terms of your monthly or annual income? What do you want your tax bill to look like? What do you want to be on your balance sheet? What do you want your net worth to be? What values and beliefs do you want to have about money? What stories do you want to have about money? What do you want to teach your children or the people who are important to you about money? And then just work your way backwards from there. But really see it in the future. If you want, a certain net worth with a certain amount of cash flow, with a certain tax amount in 3 years, then ask yourself, okay, what do I need to do in 2 years to make that happen? What do I need to do in 1 year? What do I need to be doing in 6 months? What decisions do I need to be making right now? Is it listening to a podcast like this and learning something? Is it researching about something more, meeting with a CPA, meeting with an attorney to do estate planning, looking at various real estate options, deciding if you're going to do active or passive, right? And then your brain, exactly like you said, your brain starts to say, well, maybe this is the next step. Well, maybe this is the next step. And then there's just this like magical thing, for lack of a better word, that starts to unfold, that when you're in the arena and you're moving forward toward your vision, you'll start to meet people, or you'll learn an idea that you've never heard of before, or you'll be able to put 2 ideas together. You'll find the resources, you'll find the people that you need, the questions that you need to have answered, and you just keep moving forward. And then before you know it, the thing that you created in your vision is real.
Yeah. Imagination becomes reality.